Hi guys, welcome to JC Bass Fishing Channel. Today we're going to talk about my top pre-spawn early spring lures. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Alright guys, welcome back. So we're talking about pre-spawn or early spring. So what happens during this time? Well, during this time, the fish are starting to move towards the creeks. A lot of fish are going to stay in the primary. They're going to stay staging at the primary points and secondary points. So you're going to find a lot of fish that are going to stay in the bottom, and you're also going to find some fish that are going to suspend in the water, and they're going to move a lot when they suspend in the water because they're feeding on anything that they can find. At the same time, not all of them are going to stay deep or suspended. Some fish are going to actually move to shallow water, and that's what we're going to start targeting. We want to use lures that are very natural to the type of bait that they're going to be eating at this time. So we're talking probably crawfish, we're talking some shad, we're talking some blue herring. So we're talking about any type of fish, the fish that is the predominant fish or bait in your lake. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you my top 5 lures for this time of the year, and I'm going to explain to you the reasons why I use these lures. So let's go ahead and get started with my top 5 lures. Alright guys, so my number 1 lure is a square bill. Here I got the Strike King 1.5 square bill in the Delta red color. You can also use the chili crawl color. And this is one of the best, if not the best lure to use during this time. You can use this lure in shallow water, and what I do with this lure is that I locate my boat at around 10 feet of water, and then I cast to shallow water. I cast a 45-degree angle, so that way I can keep the square bill in the target zone longer to generate a strike. I run it in the rocky areas. I run it in the sea walls. I run it in the side of the docks. If I see some laydowns, I run it around the laydowns. The intent is that you want to generate a strike, and with the rattling of the square bill, if the water is stained, you can generate a strike a lot easier than if the water is clear. Now you have to worry about is the lure that you're using natural enough to generate a strike from the bass. But that's my number 1 lure, and now we're going to go ahead and talk about my number 2 lure. Alright guys, my number 2 lure is a chatterbait, and I don't have no favorites when it comes to chatterbait. I'm using the Z-Man original chatterbait with a trailer. There you go for you to see it. And trailer base is a Gambler Lures Little Easy swim bait, and I use the white lining for that. And I use this chatterbait when I have a lot of grass. If I find myself a lot of grass and my square bill is getting hung up all the time, I go ahead and use this one to generate bites. It doesn't get hung up as much as a square bill will, and it gives you the leverage to use something different to generate a strike, especially if you miss a bite and you want to go ahead and throw a follow-on lure. You can use the chatterbait to try to generate that bite. It's great to throw it on top of grass, and every once in a while rip it off the grass. That way you can generate bites also that way. But this is my number 2 lure, and let's go ahead and talk about my number 3 lure. All right, guys, so my number 3 lure for early spring is a jerkbait. And right here, I'm gonna show you, this one is a Rick Clun Lucky Craft suspending jerkbait. And I use the jerkbait mainly when I'm facing a lot of suspended fish, and especially if the fish are feeding a lot. If I see the fish in my electronics, if I see that the fish are moving a lot, they're active, so I go ahead and use a jerkbait. And when I use the jerkbait, I basically use a pattern of 2 jerks and 1 stop. I stop between 5 to 8 seconds. I count it down, and then I go ahead and jerk 1 more time. Let it sit there for another 5 or 8 seconds, and then jerk twice again. Let it sit there, and sometimes you can jerk it 2 or 3 times. And when you let it sit there and you're gonna jerk it again, that's when you get bit. So you're gonna feel that somebody, you don't want to feel the fish pulling immediately the jerk bait. You don't have to set the hook hard or anything. All you have to do is put a little tension on that line and start reeling back, and he's not going anywhere. So mainly for suspended fish, depending on the water color, then it's the color of the jerk bait that you're going to use. If you got stained water, then you got to look for more darker colors to generate the bite, and ensure that you're using a suspended jerkbait to keep it in the target zone. If the water is clear, then you go ahead and use a more natural color that is going. If the fish see it, you can call them from deeper water. You can call them up when you jerk the lure to generate the bite. So my number 3, like I said, is the jerkbait. All right, guys, my number 4 lure for spring, early spring, or pre-spawn is a jig. And right here, you can see this jig right here. This one is the Elk River jig. It's a brush jig, or basically like a structure jig. And this one is the Boomer Run bush color. And I have a trailer on it, and the trailer is the Flappy Daddy Craw from Gambler Lures. I went ahead and cut it short because the hook is kind of short, and I went ahead and ensured that it fit properly in there, and it looks real good. How I fish this lure? Well, it all depends what the fish want and how the fish want it. Mainly I use it, I throw it on rocks, I throw it on stumps, I throw it on brush, I skip it under the docks, and then I can drag it very slow and see if the fish are going for it. If the fish are not going for the very slow drag, what I do then is I just hop it. Hop it 1 or 2 times and let it sit, drag it a little bit, then hop it again 1 or 2 times and let it sit, and try to generate a bite doing that. Like I said, I throw it on rocks a lot. This type of jig, it goes through rock. If you see how it looks in the weight, this one is a 1/2 ounce, and it goes through rock real good. So what I do is I hop it out when it falls under or between rocks. I hop it over that rock, and when you do that, it generates bites real quick. The reaction is real fast. You feel the bite immediately. So at that time, you set up the hook, and you got your fish. The colors the same. I use mainly green pumpkin, brown, watermelon red, colors that are going have some contrast with the way the water looks and are very close to what the bait at this time of the year looks like. So my number 4 is a jig. All right, guys, so my number 5 lure for pre-spawn is a shaky head. And right here, if you can see that shaky head right there, it's a Gambler screw jiggy head, 3/16 with a 5-inch Weeble finesse worm in a green pumpkin black color. And you can't go wrong with a shaky head. I mean, if the bite is tough, you're gonna generate bites with a shaky head. What I do is when I'm having a hard time finding a pattern or something like that, I go ahead and either cast it or I flip it, and I flip it on the rocks. I flip it on stumps. I flip it in front of laydowns, in the middle of laydowns. I really don't care if I lose it. I just go ahead and tie another one and just throw it in there, because sometimes at this time of the year the bass are very tight to cover and they're very protected. So, and they're a little lazy too, even though they're hungry and they want to eat. But when they get there, especially the bigger ones, they get real tight to cover, and you actually have to pass that lure right in front of them to generate that bite. They're not gonna go too far to go and chase a lure. So when you're flipping or casting a shaky head, you have different ways. You have at least 3 ways you can fish it. You can drag it in the bottom just like you do with your jig. You can drag it in the bottom and stop and shake it there for a little bit, see if you can generate a bite. You can hop it and stop it, you know, depending on what the fish want. You can hop it all the way back to the boat, or you can hop it 2 or 3 times and let it sit, shake it a little bit. And the last one that you can do is that you can dead stick it. Just throw it over there and just keep an eye on it and see if you can generate a bite. Now, if you know where the fish are at, for example, let's say you generated a pattern that the fish are right next to stumps, and you already know that you already caught 2 or 3 fish next to stumps. All right, so that means that the next stump that you find, you're gonna flip that shaky head to the side of that stump, and you're just gonna leave it there, because there's gonna be a fish there. You already established a pattern, so you know there's gonna be a fish there. So you just leave it there for a little bit. If you don't generate a bite, bring it back up, flip it to the other side of the stump, and sit it there, and let it shake it a little bit and let it be there. If you don't generate one right there, bring it all the way back, throw it in the back side of the stump, you know, and that way keep on looking for the fish. If the fish is there, guarantee he's gonna take it. So you don't have to work it that much. You just gotta find the pattern that they are utilizing during this time. The pattern could be that they're right next to rocks, you know, and you caught 2 or 3 fish already right next to rocks. So you already know the rest of the fish you're gonna find are gonna be right next to rocks. Now the other thing that you gotta look into is where you caught this fish. Did you catch this fish on secondary points? Did you catch them in the primary points? Did you catch it on staging areas between the primary point and the secondary point? Are they at 10 feet? Are they at 5 feet? Are they at 1 foot of water? So those things you have to take into consideration in order to establish the pattern. Once you establish your pattern, you're good to go. You're gonna continue to catch fish as long as you fish those patterns that you found. So that's my number 5. It's the shaky head in a green pumpkin black flake color, and I guarantee you that if you fish it the right way, you're always gonna catch a fish. Those are my 5 lures for pre-spawn or early spring. I hope that I was able to give you some ideas of the different things and different ways that you can fish the different lures and how to use them. I know you have some favorite ways to fish during this time, so please use the comments down at the bottom and go ahead and tell me what is your lure. Do you prefer a lure for this time of the year, and the reason why you like that lure more than anything else, how it works for you. That will be great, and you be sure that I'm going to try my best to answer your questions if you have any questions, and to comment on your comments. Also, make sure that you like this video, so make sure you hit that button down there, and make sure that you subscribe, and that little bell that you see right there next to it, make sure you hit that bell. That way every time I post a new video, you get a notification that I posted a video, and you can watch it and share your opinions and your ideas with my ideas and the things that work for me. So hey, there you go, guys. That's everything that I have for you this time. I'll see you later on, and go fishing and take a buddy with you. Okay, have a good day.